Good morning, everybody. I'm Nikia Davida, and I'm here to introduce a very special speaker, and I would like to give a little bit of introduction so that you have a sense of who is coming to the stage in just a moment. Dr. Robert Pease holds a PhD degree in transpersonal counseling and mystical science. He's been called the coach behind the coaches and is a well-respected psychic to the stars. Dr. Robert has been an advisor on many spiritual films, including Sacred Journey of the Heart. He's also a continuing contributor on Jennifer McLean's Healing with the Masters, along with Dee Wallace and Caroline Sutherland. Dr. Robert has experienced millionaire status to homelessness, sexual abuse, a catastrophic automobile accident, 9/11, PTSD, as well as multiple near-death experiences, including a tragic automobile accident killing 2 friends and hospitalizing him for 1 year, all of which have given him an inside story of the trauma and pain connected to each of these experiences. As a near-death experiencer, he shares his personal story to support, encourage, and inspire all those living in post-trauma to share their inside story that is uncommon, unique, and deeply personal. That's because scientific and medical research has now proven and recognized that sharing stories with others and conveying a message to connect and align others to the vicarious experience for themselves is ultimately one of the greatest healing remedies available. For 20 years, his focus has expanded to directing, producing, and designing for stage and screen. He's worked with the who's who of the entertainment industry, designing for Shirley MacLaine, Chita Rivera, Sid Charisse, and Debbie Reynolds, styling and touring with rock stars Elton John, Gracie Jones, the Pet Shop Boys, Boy George, and co-designing the 1999 Millennium World Tour for the Backstreet Boys. In New York City, as a designer, he assisted Vanessa Redgrave and Trevor Nunn on Broadway with Tennessee Williams' Not About Nightingales, and he designed and produced the smash off-Broadway hit Boobs, the musical. His credits also include 60 operas, regional theater, Broadway tours, several years on episodic televisions, Law and Order, and Third Watch, and Fashion. Dr. Robert's talent and creativity are responsible for contributing to over $4 billion box office revenue from feature films. Dr. Robert is also an intuitive doctor of mystical science, transpersonal counselor, and transformational life coach for the last 11 years, who spontaneously transforms thousands of people by exploring their fullest potential within everyone. We're grateful to have his best-selling book, Spiritual Boot Camp, This Is Your Wake-Up Call, here at the bookstore after the presentation. Today, Dr. Robert is here to share with you a way to share your story so you can step into your fullest expression, brilliance, passion, and purpose, and attracting optimum success by placing you in the starring role of your life by sharing your story. Please help me welcome Dr. Robert Pease.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Good morning. My water. Here we are, Sunday morning, and you haven't left for the airport yet. Good. Welcome. That was a big introduction from Nikia, and there's been a lot that I've had in my life, a lot of experiences. The biggest one was all the near-death experiences, One's enough, 5, too many. Each one was separate in the sense that the experiences I had with them were not in alignment at all with the one before or after it. The first one was critical because it was the scariest. I didn't really know what was going on as I was laying and dying from being shot. But the thing that was the most extraordinary about all of them is because they were so separate and so unique and so different that by the time I got to the 5th one, I was like, is that all there is to dying? Is that all there is? Do you remember the Peggy Lee song? Are you old enough? Anyway, I kind of relate to that song because in my life, is that all there is? Because this life is all there is. We're living in a multidimensional reality. You hear this all the time. And for people like me who've had multiple near-death experiences, I speak from a multidimensional kind of place. In other words, I'm aware of all the versions of me that have ever been and ever will be as they are right now. In other words, you've heard it said before, each of these versions are still alive. I know this sounds crazy. It always did. But when I came to Earth, through the vaginal stargate 64 years ago, one of the things that was happened to me is I was very aware as a child, I would look and observe people from their full dimension, full potential. I didn't see anyone as who they saw themselves to be. I saw them in their miracle of life and all the things that they were going to accomplish and do. And I was excited, and I would share it with them at 4 and 5 and 6 years of age. And as I began to realize, people looked at me really, really strange because they were curious, and it was very quizzical looks. Eventually, people were telling me to be quiet, and my mother would pat me on the head and look at the people and say, "He's sensitive. He's just a very sensitive boy." I didn't know what she was talking about, but I would just sit there and smile. By the age of 8 or 9 years of age, I was sent to see a psychiatrist, many of them, that determined that either I was dealing with borderline personality disorder, which I did not know what that meant, or some sort of schizophrenia, or maybe just a big, vast imagination. Well, whatever it was, by the time I got out of the third mental institution at the age of 13 from trying to kill myself several times to get off the planet, I realized that I had to keep my mouth shut, and I did for many, many years, until I began to have near-death experiences. I joined the Navy during the Vietnam War at 17 years of age and had this huge arc of experience after that, working with the military abroad. I had the great fortune of being a part of special services with the Navy and dealing with USO shows and seeing people come over to Vietnam and through Japan, through Asia, everybody from Bob Hope to Sid Cerise. And I got to work with all these extraordinary people and was sort of in the position of being able to see a viewpoint of the war from entertainment. I mean, here was Vietnam, this crazy, crazy conflict going on, and body bags were laid out in parking lots. It's kind of an amazing kind of reality. And as surreal as all of that was going on at that time, I did not know what post-traumatic stress syndrome was or the disorder at all, but I was seeing it every day impacting not only the veterans, the soon-be would-be veterans, but the guys that were in the military, both the Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, and Navy. But from the impact of it, the stories they were telling me were kind of amazing. And I agreed with them. And I was like having the same conversation back. And they would say, "You understand what I'm talking about?" And I go, "Yes, I do." And it was the first time that I began to have a communication with other people about a conversation I had had as a child and was told to shut up because, well, you're sensitive, and that kind of conversation, no one's having it. I traveled around the world. I'm 64 now. I traveled around the world for about 17 years looking for people like myself. Thank God for the internet. It opened up a doorway a couple of decades ago that I never had the opportunity to experience. All of a sudden, I could connect with people from all over the world. And I must say, this is my first time here at IANDS, knowing about it for quite a while, to step into this experience and say, okay, I admit it, I'm an experiencer, but I always was an experiencer. Even in the NDE process of having near-death experiences, catastrophic car wrecks, people dying next to me being in body traction for a year in a hospital, coming in and out of comas, all kinds of crazy stories, right? All this pain, anguish, torture, trauma that I went through, I would say to myself, why am I going through all of this? I mean, am I a bad guy? Did I do something wrong down here? And it was like, no, you asked to be conscious and aware. And so guess what consciousness and awareness is? It's aware of everything. The pain, the sorrow, the love, the trauma, the BS, the greatness, the horror, the monsters, the heavens, the angels, all of it are the same. It's just this drama unfolding that sometimes looks like a comedy and sometimes looks like a tragedy. Well, for me, life has been a comedy and a tragedy, and I'm in the entertainment industry now, kind of sort of have been my whole life. Yes, transformational life coach, psychic, all the rest of it, but really at heart, I'm a producer, a writer, director, and an actor. Because for me, this is the biggest stage we get to play on in the universe. And from here, we get to create anything and everything that we like. Now, most of us don't know that. Most people all over the world, in fact, a huge percentage, have no idea that they're the writer, the director, the actor, and the producer of their own movie. Yes, I think this is a movie. I think this is a great movie. And we have the opportunity to make any movie we want, we desire. Whatever it is, you get to do it. Tag, you're it. Tag, you're it. You often find, and probably in your own life, I know I have, that we're not making our own movie. That oftentimes we're sort of guest starring in other people's movies. Because when we guest star in other people's movies, we don't have to take accountability or responsibility for our own. We don't have to say, I'm it, this is my reality, and I can do anything I please, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, be a serial killer, or be an angel of mercy. It's my movie, and I'm writing the script of it, and everything that will help play out for me in my life is what I choose to create. Doesn't sound like a story we hear often, is it? Most people tend to play in other people's movies. In fact, we get addicted to guest starring in other people's movies. We jump from drama to drama to drama of other people's movies, sit in our trailer, eat their craft services, and wait for our part to play. While all along the movie we could be making is just sort of not happening. Our crew's over there standing around waiting for us to show up. Is he ever going to come back? Are we going to start filming this movie or not? The beautiful thing about that is that once we decide we're bored with being in other people's dramas, now let's talk about drama for a minute. What's drama? Drama is something we call an unlikely occurrence. An unlikely occurrence means that you're walking along doing what you're going to do. You're going through the park. You're going to maybe see a movie that afternoon or visit a friend. On the way, you get mugged. And then all of a sudden, you're in an unlikely occurrence, and you're caught up, connected to a situation that is outside of what you planned. And the next thing, the attachment of it is that you're involved, and anything you were going to do after that or before that doesn't matter. You're not in that mindset anymore. You're in this new reality that's happening to you. And until it finishes, you don't disconnect from it. In other words, we suspend our disbelief like we would going to the movies. You go to a movie house, you pay the ticket, you go in, you sit down, you have your popcorn, you know you're going to watch a movie. The next thing you're eating the popcorn, or it's too salty, or it's just perfect. And then it begins. And the next thing that happens, you're in it. Those aren't actors anymore on the screen. It's no longer a flat wall that's two-dimensional. You're inside that movie. And those actors are those real people, and those people are having events happen to them. And you're laughing, and you're crying, and you're scared, and you're afraid, and you're hiding, and whatever. And then in the old days, they used to have to write the end, because people actually did not know that it was over. They would stay suspended in the disbelief. Did you ever wonder why they wrote the end at the end of those old movies? That's why. Because it was all new to people. Now we're kind of conditioned to it. So the lights come on, and we go, popcorn's done, time to get up, go back to doing what I was doing before the movie. All right? But when that happens outside of the movie, when that happens with you getting mugged, when that happens in a near-death experience, car wreck, when that happens that the neighbors are having a big fight and you find yourself out in the yard dealing with something that was not part of your day because you were going to cook dinner, but now you're dealing with this conflict next door that's, got the police over there and whatever, you are outside of your reality and you're suspended in a disbelief for a moment. Unlike The Matrix, if you saw the movie, where the phone rang and that's how they knew to step back into their reality, their personal reality, we don't have a phone that rings. Well, we could. In fact, you should have something that goes off every maybe hour or 2 hours of the day to remind you, hey, this is my movie. But we get into BSOS, bright, shiny object syndrome. We step out of our reality because, hey, that's a pretty, look at that shiny thing over there. And next thing you know, you're in it. And you're there for a while, and it's like, and then, wait, I gotta go, oh, that's right, I was over here doing this. Oh, that's right, what was it I was doing? And you're back in your movie going, oh my God, time's gone by and I didn't get that done. What the hell have I been doing for the last 2 hours? In this process of unlikely occurrences and likely outcomes, this is actually the definition of anxiety. Anxiety. That thing that happens to us as children when we have a lot of post-traumatic situations as children where we are traumatized. And because of that trauma that we keep getting impacted with as children, we learn to disengage from our own personal reality because of parents or situations that are reminding us of their movie. Hey, you need to be over here in mine because I'm the one in charge. I'm your boss. And the kid goes, but I'm having this reality and it seems kind of cool. No, it's not mine. And there becomes a traumatic experience that begins to happen called anxiety in the child. That's each one of us. That we begin to depersonalize our life. And by the time we're a teenager and we've learned probably the 12,000 words that we're going to learn in our life, unless you were lucky enough to afford to go to college, where you now double the amount of words that you're going to learn in your life to maybe 24,000 words, and it ends there, by the way. Do you know that 99% of the world only knows less than 12,000 words? And they did it before they were 12 years old. The scary part about that is about 80% of those words, they don't even know what the definitions are. So we're using language all the time and using words that we're making assumptions about what they mean and don't know what they mean. I call it chit-chat. So what happens as we grow up, we chit-chat with each other. How you doing? I'm good. What's your day like? Oh, it's been great. How's the wife? She's great. What's the kids doing there at school? Well, fine. I've got to go. Nice talking to you. See you later. And it becomes a way of life. And what we don't know that we are doing is that we are depersonalizing and minimalizing our experiences. And even in the near-death experience, oftentimes the experiencer doesn't realize that they are also minimalizing their experience in their near-death experience. You've heard other speakers talk about the limited consciousness or concept of language that we have in order to share what we're experiencing other than here. When it comes to language, we're confounded by it. Well, if we've only got 12,000 words and 80% of them are less or more, we don't really know the definition of, we're using constructs in communication that other people don't understand anyway, because we're assuming that they define the words the same way you do or I do. That's a mistake, because we all have our assumptions about language. It's crazy. But the point is that by the end of our 25th, 26th year on the planet, we've learned to depersonalize to such a level we don't even know we're depersonalizing ourselves and minimalizing our experiences, taking up as little time as possible in the conversation with somebody else, answering their questions as quickly as we can. We don't want to take up their time. Sound like anybody you know? All right. So this just becomes a way of life. Now we're masters at depersonalization. We're masters at minimalization. We know how to keep our lives as small and as insignificant as we can. We don't want to take up anybody's time. We don't want to take up our own time. Is this over yet? Can I go? No. The deal here is that when we begin to share our experiences, something profoundly happens. We make contact with other people. But that often takes training and time and skill to do. Oftentimes we spend most of our lives telling people stuff. So how was your day? Well, I got up, I went to work. First I got up, had breakfast, and then, I got in some traffic. Traffic was terrible. Got to work, work was just another day. Then I had lunch around 12:30, and I got off at 5, and again, the traffic was bad. And I got home and had dinner, and then I watched a little TV and went to bed. Gee, that was an exciting day. Mostly what they've just done is they've inventoried their day. They have a checklist, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, the end. The end. They told us what they did, but they did not do what we really, really needed to require from them. We really were trying to ask, but didn't know how because of language. So what did you experience today? What was your experiences? Oh my gosh. I almost experienced an orgasm at noon. I don't know what happened. I got so excited by the idea that lunch was about to appear, and the tuna, the taste of it was miraculous. They put raisins in it. You know what a raisin tastes like? It's got these little snappy little sweet things that happen like a grape, but it's all chewy and delicious. I didn't ask you that. I asked you how your day was. I don't have time for this. You've already taken up 3 minutes of my time when I asked, how was your day, for you to just say, it's great, see you later, and I could go on about my business. Now you've done something to me that I don't know what to do. I'm engaged. More, tell me more. What were those raisins like? You're sharing your experience now. Now, the miraculous thing about sharing is that it does something that scientists have now proven to be extraordinary for us. We're doing something we normally don't do with everybody in the world. We're making contact. Sounds like the aliens coming down the spaceships. Peace, Earthlings, we're here to make contact. Kill them quick! The thing is that we don't know how to make contact because we've learned to personalize everything. So what would it feel like and look like if for the first time in language, we were able to actually say, how you doing versus what you're doing? Because we ask, how are you doing? But what are you doing? What are you doing? What's your day like? What do you feel now? What was the experience you had an hour ago while you were whatever? What did it feel like and look like to be in the conversation on the phone when you were selling insurance? Oh my God, you have no idea. This lady on the other end of the phone, she was driving me crazy. She was eating peanuts and they were crunching on the phone. And the entire time I was talking to her, you know what I was talking about? I was thinking inside, I'm hungry and I'm listening to crunchy peanuts and I'm thinking, boy, peanut butter, wouldn't that be great? Peanut butter and jelly. But then I wanted to take a swim. I don't know where that came from. I think I need to go to the gym. All right, so here we go. Bette Midler once said, my brain is like a CD player and it's always on shuffle. I don't know what's going to come up. Our brains are always on shuffle. But we don't want people to know that because they'll think we're crazy. If they knew right now what each one of us were thinking, all the things we're thinking, what would that look like and feel like? What are you thinking about right now? Getting the hell out of here, going back home, got to catch a plane, you're hungry, I've got gas, I hope nobody can smell it. Really? So, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, thanks for asking. How are you? Oh, I'm great too. Great, have a nice day, bye. It's so much easier than the experiences that we're actually experiencing right now. Like, what am I experiencing right now? I'm having a little bit of my own PTSD because I still suffer from it. And, I'm perspiring a bit because I'm a little bit nervous and my stomach hurts a little bit because I ate too much this morning at that great buffet. And I'm thinking, that melon was hard. And why didn't they clip the skin off that cantaloupe? Because it was too green. And so I had to pick through it. Did you have that experience this morning? Pick through the cantaloupe to find the ones that didn't have the green peeling on it. And tomorrow, I'm going to Chop Chop this afternoon. Did I make that reservation? I can't remember. The whole time I'm talking with you right now, I've got 50 things going on in my brain. What about you? Excuse me? Is there a doctor in the room? Somebody just passed out. Please run. Oh, see, this is what we call an unlikely occurrence. What a perfect model. You're in here sitting down doing what you're doing right now, and people are getting up and they're running out to see who's passed out and if they're going to be okay and what's going on. And oh my gosh, what if it had been me or you that passed out right now? What if you were having that unlikely occurrence right this minute, passed out? It's amazing. Call the chaplain. I'm a doctor. Oh, no. Oh, I have to leave the stage. I have to go see who passed out. The thing is that when we begin to step into the possibility that the experiences we're having are valuable to other people, then telling becomes more about sharing. Now, what's the difference? Telling, I said, was the inventory list, itemizing your day, itemizing your situations. It's kind of black and white, isn't it? It's kind of black and white. But when you step into it, it's kind of like a detective when they show up at a crime scene. The first thing you do is, did anybody witness this? And the lady says, well, I was there. He says, could you come over here, please? So he doesn't say to her, lady, can you tell me what happened? He asks her name because he wants to bring her to her present self because she's very upset. So what's your name? Where do you live? How old are you? Are you married? I mean, they ask really crazy questions, it seems like, that have nothing to do with the experience, but they're doing it to get the person into their body so they can be present with them. Then they take them on a journey. They say, okay, so tell me about the crime scene. And the next question is, so where were you when it happened? Well, I was in the apartment. Oh, no, ma'am. Where in the apartment were you? Oh, I was standing behind the sofa. And when you were standing by the sofa, what did you see? Well, I was standing there, and the next thing you know, I heard the scream in the kitchen, and I didn't know what to do, but I thought, gosh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, how did you know it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Because the cuckoo clock on the wall went cuckoo, 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 and a little red bird came out, and it was 3 o'clock. And then I heard another scream, and something smashed on the floor, and another scream. And then what happened? Well, then I left from my side of the sofa, and I went and looked around and peered into the kitchen, and what I saw just shocked me. Well, what was it, ma'am? Well, another lady had fallen on the floor, my girlfriend, Marge, and what happened is that she spilled some milk on the floor, and she slipped in it, and she fell down, and she hit her head. There was blood everywhere. There was blood everywhere. Then what did you do next? And she begins telling the story, but then she shifts into sharing it. Because now she's imminent. She's back inside that apartment. She's looking at her, and describe to me what you're looking at this moment. Well, there's blood on the floor, and it's mixed with the milk, and it's kind of making this swirly feeling. And she goes into it with the police officer, the detective, and she's now imminent. She's a witness inside the story. She's inside it. But if he had asked her outside the apartment, so tell me what you saw, she's now going to become the evaluator. She's going to think about it, she's going to evaluate it, she's going to assess it, and she's going to have an opinion about it. And she's not going to remember the details, but she's going to inventory and itemize what she saw in those steps. She's no longer inside the story. We tend to evaluate everything that we do from this little voice inside our head that is actually in real time evaluating what we're experiencing and then determining whether or not it's going to share it with us or tell us what's going on with the determination of whether or not it has anything to do with trauma from before, any experience from the past that was negative or hurt us. And then if it says all clear, then we get to have the experience and it's no longer in real time. But if it did affect us, it will hit a trigger and a button saying, this is trauma from before, you don't want to go through this again, and it's going to depersonalize, shut me down, and I'm not going to have the experience. I'm actually going to step out of my body and depersonalize it. When we're in the sharing process, what begins to happen is that we're now here and now in this moment, like a time capsule. Any place you've ever been in your life, and let's say it's a near-death experience, you have the opportunity when sharing the story to actually go and be in it again. Now, this is not easy. The first time I wrote about my near-death experience for an anthology, the near-death experience that occurred for me in Italy in a catastrophic car wreck, I could not write it. As I began to write it, I couldn't write it because as I wrote it, I was remembering and stepping inside of it moment by moment. Now, my evaluator wanted to say, well, at 3 o'clock in the morning on the Amalfi Coast, our BMW, a 740i BMW, I was in the passenger seat, hit the side of a mountain, flipped 7 times, 8 times. I went through the car window, slid across the ground, ripped my clothes all off, bled, couldn't see from that, and then it was there for a while, and then I wasn't there. I was like everywhere, all over the universe, and having a really good time, by the way. And then back in my body, now my body. Now I'm looking at an ambulance, and the next thing I'm in a coma, and I'm at the hospital, but then I find out later I had, 8 or 9 surgeons work on me for about 14 hours total, and I died. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to evaluate it and sort of assess it. But what I was doing is I was in it. I stepped into it, and I heard myself say, "This is it." And I covered my face. And the next thing I know, I'm banging up and down inside the car, banging my upside. And then I'm not free. I'm flying. I'm rolling. I can't see. It's dark. I'm alive. I'm dead. I'm alive. I'm dead. I'm dead. It's dark. It's quiet. There's no sound. My heart's beating. I'm alive. Why can't I see? Oh my God. I want to scream out. I can't move my mouth. I'm screaming inside my head. Wiggle your toes. Just wiggle your toes. If you can wiggle your toes, maybe you're not paralyzed. I must be on the street. I'm in a cliff. I'm on a canyon. God, I wish I could see anything. Where am I? My gosh. And then multidimensional things began to happen. That's me stepping out of the story right now to explain to you that at that point, the dot that I was there became connected to all the other dots, and the lines began to construct, and the lines became squares, and the squares became cubes. And I was very aware of the 3D again, but then the lines and the cubes and the squares began to make more, and they made pentagrams, and the next thing it's geometrical. And my points of view are moving from different points and radiuses all around the space that I'm in. I'm seeing the cliff on the side. I'm seeing the car off the cliff. I'm laying on the ground. There's blood everywhere. I'm objective. I'm unobjective. This sucks, I hear myself say out loud. It begins. I can't describe to you what that experience is, because communicating that part of it is me communicating in the three-dimensional language that we're speaking right now. And I can't speak about what that is and bring it into a filter of the 3D. Sorry, tried. So in writing this story, I had to go from the point of where I was in it imminently. Later on in the writing of it, I talk about, the blindness part was that the blood that was all over my face was preventing my eyes from seeing. My eyes were open, but I couldn't see because of the blood. White light, lots of white light. White light, I must be going through the tunnel now. It's interesting, when I was in that experience, because of what I knew, I already was evaluating. My Hindu self, the version of me that was Hindu, was saying, okay, remember the point where the light begins to change colors. You want to jump at the white light first, because if you any light after that is the less value of the dimensions that you're going to step into. This is what I'm thinking. Okay, get ready. Here comes the white light. 1, 2, 3, you go, jump. I'm doing this in my head while I'm dying, and I'm going through the tunnel. Because I know from my Hindu self that at the white light's the most important light, because that's going to be the highest level. Anything less than that, I'm going to go into, Dante's Inferno. Okay, jump the white light. Here we go. Whee! Oh, home, not home. Oh, why am I back here? Oh, what happened? Oh. And all of this conversation is going on with all these parts of me, that the Hindu, the Christian, the Catholic, the slave owner, I don't know, all the different people I've ever been, everywhere I've ever been, and most of them were not on this planet. Hello. But that doesn't matter. That's another story. We don't like to talk about that part. The interesting thing about the sharing part is it was said to me not too long ago that when you talk about near-death experiences or death experiences, and then you contribute any of that to any sort of thing to do with post-traumatic stress syndrome or mental disorder, it confuses and scares people, that they think that people who've had NDE experiences also have some sort of mental disorder or PTSD connected to it. Well, I'm here to say, yes, they do. Because those near-death experiences oftentimes activate mental disorder in us, because we do begin to have multiple personality, quote-unquote, disorders. Because now we're seeing ourselves in all the versions we've been. So when we begin to share ourselves. We brain sync with other people. There's an emotional connection. They vicariously begin to experience what we've experienced. And oh my gosh, do we really want them to have that vicarious experience? Because the minute they do, they're stepping into something that they didn't realize they're going to get. They're now going to have a multidimensional experience with me. Contact. Uh-oh. If you go back to 3D inside a cube, that's where we are. We like to build things in 3D here. It's all about boxes on boxes. We build skyscrapers. We like boxes, right? Our whole world is made up of them. You're sitting by a box, the desk you're at, the room you're in. All of this is a construct. When we have an experience outside of this, it means that you're with me traveling through space and time beyond that to places far, far away. And I like to try to explain them this way. Let's say you're sitting in a 24-hour period and you're going to watch approximately 12 movies that are 2 hours long. Now pick your favorite 12 movies. Mine happen to be like Gone with the Wind, The Wizard of Oz, Chicago. I go on and on with the movies, right? Now, I'm going to watch each one of those movies, one after another, for 12 hours. And in those 2 hours of each of those movies, I'm suspended in my disbelief. I'm inside the movie. You know, I'm Liza Minnelli singing this song in Cabaret, or I'm, Scarlett O'Hara. I'll never go hungry again. Damn it. Why did she marry him? All that. We're doing all of this, and we're in each version of ourselves are watching 12 different movies that have nothing to do with each other. Now, the 24 hours goes by, and you've been inside 12 movies. Imagine, if you can, that now you're in all 12 of those movies simultaneously. They're layered on top of each other. What would it look like and feel like to watch 12 movies simultaneously in a 24-hour period? So there'd be 12 televisions, I guess, in the room, or 12 films on all cubes. Movie there, 12 movies. And you're in it. And you're disbelieving, you've disengaged, and now you're in all of them simultaneously. These are all the versions that are happening all the time. But we do not get that part here in the 3D because, like light hitting our eyes, by the time we comprehend it and assess it in our iris, and it reflects on the back of the inside hollow ball of our eyeball, and the nerve endings take the information to the brain, it sees it all as white light. Yet you and I know from science that white light is what? Blue, red, green, yellow, orange. But when we're looking at it, it's white, but it's not. But that's what we think. But we know it's not. It's the same thing in all these versions of ourselves. And it doesn't really matter on some level because, hey, it's too much information to deal with. But for us who are experiencing that all the time, it's a lot of information to deal with. It's like having a foot in all kinds of places simultaneously and trying and attempting to communicate it in one language with less than 12,000 words. So we don't. We disconnect, we minimalize. How are you doing today? I'm good. What's up? It doesn't have to make sense. That's the purpose. We think all this has to make sense. None of this makes sense to me. None of it. I can't even explain it, so I don't. But what I am doing now at 64 years of age is I'm supporting people in doing something most people have never done before. Learning how to utilize tools to give you the opportunity to make contact with other people, other humans on the planet. To be able to talk and communicate in a way with the 12,000 words or less that you have, unless you're college educated, you may have up to 24,000 words. To find those words and be able to speak in a way and share in a way that allows your story, whatever that story is, and we all have one, and that story is made up of all the versions of you that you have ever been up to now. What does that mean? All the versions of you is the version of you that's the little girl, little boy. The version of you that's the bully or the victim. The version of you that's a prostitute or the saint. The version of you that wears the white hat all the time or the black hat all the time. The hero in your story is you all the time. That hero has a lot of stories, a lot of versions of you that got you to this place. Now, the version that you are right now in this room is the version that you want to show up with to this group of people. That's not the version that's in Taboo or Bondage or S&M, or the version of you that is, hardcore criminal or wife or family abuser or have mental disorders or near-death experiences or been in the war or has PTSD or is hungry or, is whatever. All those versions, whatever those are of you. We pick and choose each one of those versions depending on what group we're in. Well, what would happen if we upgraded and we took all of those different versions and put a new version of ourselves that incorporated all the people we've ever been into one? And we shared that story. An example would be if you had 18 minutes left in your life to share the most important message that you would like to convey to the world about who you are and what you believe and what is of value and important to you, so much so in all the experiences you've had in the world, what would that version look like and feel like, and what is it that you would share in those 18 minutes? If I said, you have 18 more minutes to live, what is the most important thing you would like to share with the world? To convey a message, especially to the kids. What would you like them to know and understand? What kind of contact would you like to make with them so they can move forward in their life having an extraordinary experience without fear, without anxiety, without trauma? Who is that person in you? Now, you may never have thought about what that looks like or feels like because, well, if you're like most, you minimalize, you just get through the day, you say hi, goodbye, I don't know what's going on. You watch movies to disengage your disbelief. You say as much of the unlikely occurrences as you can hopefully do. You cook from a recipe, you know what you're going to have for dinner, you know where you're going to drive for work every day. You know what conversations you're going to have with everybody you meet. It's the same conversations, right? Kind of Groundhog Day after a while. The life just goes on and things just... But what if it wasn't that? What if the new version of you was that I am going to have a new experience every moment? Every moment I'm going to observe my life as time and me together are priceless. Everything is priceless. So therefore, all my time is priceless moments. What am I going to do with those moments? What shall I create today? Like a 5-year-old. Here's the Play-Doh, here's the crayons, there's the colors, there's the mud box, there's the sandbox, there's whatever there is. Which one of these am I going to play in now? And now. And now. And in sharing your story, you begin to recognize that all those versions of you are happening simultaneously. And you can take them inside of yourself and connect and communicate and engage with an audience for the very first time that has a vicarious experience of your life. And when they do, you know what happens? This amazing thing that happens? You make contact. You make contact. I know you. I know you. I know you. And I know you. And I know you. The thing is, I do know you. Because all I see is your full potential self. And all I wish in return is that you could see mine. My full potential self. Who am I inside of this body? And what am I experiencing every moment? It's a lot to ask. But it's all I know. So when you come up to me after this and say, how's it going or what's new? Get ready. Because I ain't going to just say, oh, it's good. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to share with you the moment I'm having with you. I actually had a friend of mine yesterday say, we're supposed to be having happy hour right now. This isn't very much happy. This is like getting deep inside the rabbit hole. I go, sorry, I forgot it's happy hour. Because life is all these experiences that we're having at this very moment, and we're all dying, that's what we're doing, by the way, dying to have as many experiences as we can have, but most of the time we're not having very many experiences at all. At all. It's just BS to me. I can't get over it. Do you know what it's like to be from my side of the point of view and look out half the time of the world and see zombies? Zombies everywhere. It's like a sci-fi horror movie. Unemotionally detached, minimalized people walking around chit-chatting about nothing. I just want to get naked and start dancing in the street, but they'll lock me up. Can't do that. Have to live within the boundaries that are accessible in society. What is it that you would like to do that you've never done? Where would you like to go that you've never been? Who would you like to be if you could be that person? What would you wear if you are? What is the one singular most important, valuable thing in your life that you've never been able to express? Does anybody ever ask you those questions? Hell no, because guess what? If you do know and you can share it, they'll either think you're crazy, or you'll feel strange, or you'll be shocked that they actually listened. It makes sense to me that the first time I read George Orwell's 1984 was, I think I was 14. It was right there with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Don't ask. But anyway, reading that book, and then he was talking about newspeak in the future, where everything was going to become a language and a conversation where we use minimal words to talk to each other. I knew already what he was talking about. And guess what? We're there. Is anybody texting right now? I've actually loved the part where I'm actually having a conversation with somebody who's kind of close to me, and we're texting to each other. Or I'm in the office and they're in the living room, and we're texting. We're talking to each other in text. God forbid one of us or the other get up and walk into the other room and say, hey, what's going on in here? No, I can text. Well, get up. And I can say it in three letters. W-Y-D. What you doing? I don't even have to say what you doing. It's great. I love it. No, I don't. Because that's how minimal we've become. IDK. I don't know. IDC. I don't care. I'm going to get t-shirts to say that. IDK, I don't. I actually had somebody have, a four-letter word that we're not supposed to say. I said it all the time. And I just said, me, you, everybody else, who cares? And he could check, you could look at the thing that was the word, and then under it say, me, you, or anybody else. You could tell somebody off without ever saying a word, just pointing to the checkbox on the shirt. I want that shirt. We have an opportunity, folks, to step beyond all of this and shine in a new way where we can learn, and it is a learning process, steps in systems and formulas that allow us to actually begin to share our experiences with each other in a way that we can do it with the world. You know what's really crazy? And I'm doing it this year. I have my 18-minute TED Talk. I'm also doing my one-man show in LA and New York because at 64 I realize it's time. They've asked me to write an autobiography. I don't have time. I'm too busy living. It's like Elizabeth Taylor said, I don't have time for writing an autobiography. I'm living my autobiography. But I'm doing it because we're going to record it so then I never again ever have to tell the same story twice. In my coaching program, after you've said the same thing 100 or 1,000 times to people, you finally go, why am I doing this? This is not wasting my time. It's wasting everybody's time. I could have just recorded this and put it out there, and they could have it forever and ever, and then I can go play in my sandbox or with my Play-Doh or what can I create today story. We have an opportunity to actually begin to not only share our story, but to record it in a way, in a platform, from an 18-minute TED Talk all the way to your one-man or one-woman show. Can you imagine not waiting till you're 60 or 70 years of age to share your story on stage? that you could have done it at 14? What would it be like if your grandchildren were able at 13 or 12 to get up on stage and tell and share their story at 14 or 12 about how they view the world and have everybody in the audience relate to them? What would it be like for you to be able to raise your hand or get up on your chair every time they said something that you related to? So they can see that they're not alone and you can see that you're just alike as well and share that experience. But the trouble with this process is that the minute you say words like shine or show up or share, the most extraordinary thing happens. The people who've spent most of their lives being invisible, they cloak and they run out of the room as fast as they can because they're scared to death of the process of showing up and sharing who they are. Now, I don't know, maybe it's past lives. Burn at the stake, stack the hay, people scream. I don't know, you tell me. But whatever all that is the reason we tend to minimalize our lives. What stories inside of you that you're dying, by the way, you're dying to tell, and then dying to share and connect with other people who then can relate to you? What is your legacy to the world after you're gone, besides your kids and your grandchildren? What is the extraordinary moment in your life that changed your life? You had the high and the low and the bridge of transformation that you've yet to actually share with anyone else enough so they can have a vicarious experience of that and in that way connect not only to you but to the rest of the world, because we are all here together having this extraordinary experience together. Right or not? Right? Yes? No? Or are y'all just isolated in your own little world and I'm hiding and I'm cloaked and I sneak by. Nobody sees me. Oh shit, they see me. I forgot to put my clothes on. Join me in the experience of sharing your life and sharing your experience. Learn how to do that in a very, very short way, short, minimal way, so that it allows you to think about the idea, what would it be like for you to do an 18-minute TED Talk? Oh my God, are you kidding me? I would like to hear it. I'd like to share it. I can go on and on about these stories, the idea of it, but I'm not because I have 5 minutes left. We've run out of time. Do you have any questions around all this crazy I just stood up here and said? Would anybody like to ask me anything or share a moment? Somebody's coming up. Here we go. Hello, darling.
This is my first time asking a question.
Oh, it's my first time answering one. No. Hello. What's your name?
Suzanne Mays,
Hi, Suzanne. I'm Robert.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
How you doing today?
Great, because some answers have been coming to me that have been a lifetime. So with you and your presentation, one of the things that I have lived with is I hate asking people, how are you? But, and the times that I try to frame it in a different way, where it's expressing some kind of, I'm interested in where you are right now, there isn't time. People, you'll get cut off in the middle of what you're asking, or what was being shared if I share something about myself. And you're just cut off, and they're off moving away, doing some other business, or there's a meeting has to get started, or there's always that element, there's not enough time.
We have all the time in the universe. Imagine saying that. I am the master of time. I am the master of time management, and I have all the time in the world. If you begin saying this in a conversation with people, in your own mind, you'll expand their reality, and they won't even know it's happening to them. And here's the other thing I think I hear from you, is that when we oftentimes want to share something with other people, we're really not sharing with them. We're telling them. And for them, all they're hearing is an inventory, a list in black and white. And they become bored because they're not having an integrated experience with us. And they're busy. They've got something else to do. I got to go. Nice talking to you. And we think, what is it? What is it? Is it me? Do I have bad breath or BO? No, it's that I do not know how to share what the process is. So they're not having an integrated experience with me. And like every other person who's not having an experience, they've run out of time.
It's a problem of learning the art of conversation.
Oh, is
So
it a
some
problem?
people are more outward going and others are more introverted. And so for somebody like myself, I just kind of like shut out.
Oh, you're
Just
invisible.
let everybody else do the talking.
Are you talking? Did I hear you say anything? You're invisible. Yes, you are. You're probably a harmonizer, a gifted healer. You leave people better than you find them. You have a way of transmuting lower frequencies to higher frequencies. You've been invisible your whole life, cloaked, probably because you're hypersensitive. And because of that, not being able to connect and be depersonalized, you felt alone and alienated in the world that you live in, a stranger in a strange land. Those times are changing, by the way.
An enigma.
The veil, an enigma. But the enigma is if you recognize that you are not alone, because what I just said to you about yourself means I see you. You're not invisible to me. That means you can see other people just like you, and you can begin to make contact with them, and all of a sudden you're not going to be alone. You're going, oh my God, there's other healers just like me. It's not about being a light worker. It's about the language of light. That's what we're expanding into now. You're going to do this, but you're afraid, like so many harmonizers, because you've been invisible for so long.
I'm a Libra.
Well, on top of that, whatever that is. But I will say this to you. Do not give up hope, and every morning wake up and rub your hands together and say, what shall I create today? And step out of the closet just a little more every day. Like the gays and the African American and the women before you who said, you know what, we can define our own story. Remember I said, make up my own story? I don't have to be defined by somebody else's story anymore. We can unite and become a community of one and speak a language that is yet to be spoken on this planet. And believe me, darling, it's happening. Trust
Thank you.
that.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Hello.
Hi.
One more question.
I'm Sunny Jessup, and
Hi,
I've been
Sunny.
sitting there thinking particularly about one thing that happened to me, and a lot of strange things have happened to me, a lot of things I don't talk to other people about. I was about 21 with my boyfriend at the time, with another couple I didn't know that well, and we were standing in line in a crowded restaurant waiting to be seated to eat. And all of a sudden, I was in an operating room, and I really was there. And I said something out loud, and then that brought me back into here. And I think when I was there, I was a man, and that I was a surgeon. But it wasn't anyone I knew. It wasn't anything I was familiar with. And the people around me just looked at me like, she's crazy, because my statement had nothing to do with anything that was going on then. But I've never forgotten that, and I've always felt really weird about it. I think I shared it with someone once, and they had no comment whatsoever.
Well, the beautiful thing is that you just shared it with a whole room of people who don't think you're crazy at all, correct? Is she crazy? Well, a little bit, but no, yeah. So the other part of that is that you stepping into this and sharing that piece of you that thinks you're crazy, the evaluator back here that observes you and says, she's crazy. Don't say that out loud to people. That's the person we need to fire now.
Yeah.
They've really supported us and protected us for a long time, but we've gotten lazy like texting. We listen to them, evaluating, and the critic will always have an opinion about whatever I'm experiencing. I don't care anymore. Don't care anymore. Share that story. Be visible. Speak it. Broadcast it out loud. Be the radio that you're here to be. Turn the volume up. Plug into the power behind everything. Get that antenna up. Tap into those frequencies and broadcast loud and clear. Because the world is listening. And the ones who will connect to you, you will attract them to you. They'll be able to find you. Not to scream, stack the hay, but to actually say hello. You know, I was in that surgery too. I was the one you were operating on. What would that look like and feel like for you? Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was it. I can't. We're done. It was awesome. Thank you very much.